Have you ever stood up from a chair and felt that sharp, aching stiffness in your knees or hips that seems to say, "Not today"? Maybe your hands feel more swollen in the morning, or your fingers don't quite move the way they used to. If joint pain has been slowly creeping into your everyday life, especially after 65, you're definitely not alone. And if you've been trying creams, stretching, or even cutting back on activity to manage it, but nothing seems to really work, it might be time to take a closer look at what's on your plate. Yes, the food you eat every day could be making your joints feel worse without you even realizing it. It might sound surprising, but some foods that seem harmless or even healthy can actually trigger inflammation in the body. And for people over 65, inflammation is often the hidden culprit behind those stiff knees, swollen fingers, and sore backs. The tricky part? These foods often sneak into our daily meals in subtle ways. That's why today's video is so important, because we're going to uncover 6 common foods that may be secretly making your joint pain worse, and more importantly, what you can eat instead to feel better, stay active, and regain control of your comfort. This isn't about dieting or giving up everything you love. It's about becoming aware and making gentle, smart choices that support your body, not fight against it. So let's dig in. Now, let me ask you something. Do you start your day with a bowl of cereal or toast? Maybe a quick sandwich for lunch? If so, you might be consuming more refined grains than you realize, and that's where we'll begin. Refined grains, things like white bread, white rice, traditional pasta, even many breakfast cereals, are stripped of their natural fiber and nutrients during processing. What's left is a product that turns into sugar very quickly once digested. And when blood sugar spikes, the body often responds with inflammation. For someone with aging joints, that inflammation shows up as stiffness, soreness, and pain. It doesn't mean you have to give up grains completely. But try this. Next time you reach for a sandwich or a side of rice, opt for whole grains instead. Think oats, brown rice, quinoa, or even whole grain bread with visible seeds and grains. These options are not only more nutritious, but they digest more slowly, keeping blood sugar steady and inflammation at bay. You might be surprised how much lighter your joints feel when you make this one swap a regular part of your day. Now, speaking of hidden ingredients, let's talk about something that shows up in more foods than most people realize: added sugars. Sugar isn't just in desserts. It hides in places like salad dressings, pasta sauces, flavored yogurts, and even low-fat snack bars that claim to be healthy. The problem with sugar is that it triggers the release of inflammatory chemicals called cytokines, and these little troublemakers can make joint pain worse, especially if it's already lingering from arthritis or wear and tear over the years. Think about it. Have you ever had a piece of cake or a sweetened drink and felt extra sluggish or achy a few hours later? That's not your imagination. That's your body trying to manage a flare-up of inflammation. If you've got a sweet tooth, and let's be honest, most of us do, you don't have to go cold turkey. Try replacing refined sugar with natural alternatives like honey in small amounts, or better yet, eat fruit when that craving kicks in. Berries, apples, and oranges are packed with fiber, antioxidants, and vitamins that actually fight inflammation instead of feeding it. Plus, they're satisfying without giving you that sugar crash. Alright, let's shift to something a little more savory. You might be surprised by this one, because for many of us, it's a staple in the kitchen. I'm talking about vegetable oils, especially the ones labeled as canola, corn, or soybean oil. Now, these oils might sound healthy. Some even say heart healthy right on the label. But here's the catch. They're loaded with omega-6 fatty acids, and while your body does need a little bit of omega-6, too much of it throws off the balance with omega-3s, which are the anti-inflammatory kind. When that balance is off, inflammation levels rise, and your joints pay the price. These oils are often used in processed snacks, frozen meals, and fried foods. They're cheap, easy to cook with, and found in everything from crackers to salad dressings. So what's a better choice? Look for oils like olive oil or avocado oil. These are rich in healthy fats that actually reduce inflammation and support joint health. In fact, olive oil is a key ingredient in the Mediterranean diet, one of the most recommended diets for older adults who want to protect their hearts, their brains, and yes, their joints too. If you enjoy cooking at home, try sautéing your veggies in olive oil instead of butter or margarine. It gives your food a beautiful flavor, supports your joints, and helps your body absorb more nutrients from the meal. It's a small change, but over time, small changes can lead to big relief. And that brings us to another often overlooked issue, the connection between dairy and inflammation. Now, before you panic, no, I'm not going to tell you to throw out all your cheese and yogurt. But it's worth paying attention to how dairy affects your body, because for some people, it makes joint pain worse. Dairy contains a protein called casein, and for certain folks, it can trigger inflammation, particularly in joints already suffering from arthritis. If you've ever had a bowl of ice cream or a cheesy meal and felt extra sore the next morning, it might not be coincidence. The best way to know is to do a short test. Go without dairy for a couple of weeks and see how your joints feel. During that time, you can replace cow's milk with almond milk, oat milk, or other non-dairy alternatives that still provide calcium and vitamin D, both important for bone and joint health. And don't worry, you can still enjoy creamy textures and satisfying flavors without relying on traditional dairy if you find it doesn't agree with your joints. So, now that we've taken a closer look at refined grains, sugar, processed oils, and even dairy, you might already be thinking about how many of these foods have quietly made their way into your daily meals over the years. That's completely normal. These aren't bad foods in the dramatic, fear-based sense. They're just not doing your joints any favors, and when you're over 65, your body simply doesn't recover from inflammation the way it used to. That's why these subtle shifts in your eating habits can really add up over time. Let's move on to another common culprit that might not be on your radar yet: processed meats. You know the ones: ham, bacon, sausage, deli turkey, even hot dogs. These are foods many of us grew up with. They're quick, tasty, and often feel comforting. But here's the thing: processed meats are loaded with preservatives like nitrates and nitrites, which can trigger inflammation in the body. And just like with sugar and bad oils, inflammation isn't just something happening inside your bloodstream, it's something you feel in your joints. Beyond the preservatives, processed meats are also often high in saturated fats. While a little fat is important for hormone and brain health, too much of the wrong kind of fat can fan the flames of joint pain. You might notice it as increased stiffness in your knees after a bacon-heavy breakfast, or more soreness in your hands after that sausage dinner. But don't worry, you don't have to give up meat entirely. There are better choices that support your body instead of working against it. Try switching to lean, unprocessed proteins like grilled chicken, wild-caught salmon, or even plant-based options like lentils and beans. These are rich in nutrients your joints need, like magnesium, omega-3s, and amino acids for tissue repair. Plus, when you season them with herbs and spices like turmeric or ginger, both natural anti-inflammatories, you're giving your joints even more of a helping hand. Now, let's talk about something that surprises a lot of people: nightshade vegetables. Wait, vegetables? Aren't those supposed to be healthy? Yes, most vegetables are fantastic for joint health, but some people, particularly those dealing with arthritis or long-term joint issues, can be sensitive to a group of plants called nightshades. This includes tomatoes, eggplants, bell peppers, and white potatoes. These veggies contain a chemical called solanine, which in some individuals can increase inflammation and joint discomfort. Not everyone reacts to nightshades, but if you've tried everything else and still feel that persistent ache in your fingers or swelling in your knees, it might be worth experimenting with a short break from these vegetables to see if you notice a change. If you do decide to limit nightshades for a couple of weeks, don't worry, you've got plenty of other delicious and nutritious options to fill the gap. Think leafy greens like spinach and kale, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and Brussels sprouts, and root vegetables like carrots and sweet potatoes. These are packed with antioxidants, vitamins, and fiber, all of which help reduce inflammation and support healthy joints. And if you're a tomato lover and can't imagine giving them up, try cooked or fermented versions, like tomato sauce or sun-dried tomatoes. Cooking can reduce the effects of solanine, making them easier on sensitive joints. As always, it's about finding your body's balance, not following a one-size-fits-all rule. Now, we've covered a lot already, and you might be wondering, how do I even begin to make all these changes without feeling overwhelmed? Here's the good news: you don't have to do everything at once. In fact, small, gradual shifts tend to work better in the long run. If breakfast is where you rely on toast and jam, start by swapping the bread for whole grain or adding fruit instead of sugary spreads. If you usually cook with canola oil, keep a bottle of olive oil on the counter and use it for just one meal a day to begin with. These little habits stack up, and within weeks, your joints can begin to feel looser, lighter, and more cooperative. One more thing, don't underestimate the power of hydration. Okay, water isn't exactly a food, but it's essential for joint health. The cartilage that cushions your joints is made mostly of water, and when you're dehydrated, that cushion gets thin and brittle, leading to more friction and more pain. Plus, water helps flush out toxins that contribute to inflammation. Try this. Keep a glass of water nearby throughout the day, or flavor it naturally with lemon, cucumber, or berries if plain water feels boring. Herbal teas count too, especially ones like ginger or turmeric tea, which add an extra anti-inflammatory boost. And while we're on the topic of beverages, I'll give you a gentle nudge about alcohol. Look, there's nothing wrong with the occasional glass of wine or celebratory toast. But regular alcohol consumption, even just a couple of drinks a week, can increase inflammation and interfere with how your body processes nutrients that are vital for joint health. If joint pain is something you're really struggling with, cutting back just a little on alcohol can make a noticeable difference, especially when you replace it with water or herbal teas that support your body instead. At this point, you might be thinking, wow, I've been eating some of these things for decades, and now they're part of the problem? It's okay. Truly. There's no judgment here. The goal isn't perfection, it's awareness. Once you know what your body responds to, you get to make smarter choices. And that's where real progress happens, not through willpower or strict rules, but through gentle shifts that work with your body instead of against it. Because here's the truth, your joints don't have to define your day. Yes, you're over 65, but that doesn't mean pain and stiffness are your new normal. You have more control than you think. And every bite, every meal, every choice, that's an opportunity to support your joints, reduce inflammation, and take back the freedom to move the way you want to. Now that we've talked about some of the biggest culprits, from refined grains to processed meats, and even those sneaky nightshades, there's just one more food on this list that might surprise you. And believe it or not, it's often found in health foods, protein bars, and even your morning cup of coffee, artificial sweeteners. I know, a lot of folks switched to these years ago to cut back on sugar and calories. It felt like a smart move, right? But here's the issue. While artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin may not spike your blood sugar the way regular sugar does, they can still trigger inflammation in the body, especially in people over 65. You see, these sweeteners can interfere with your gut health by disrupting the balance of good bacteria. And as science is discovering, your gut and your joints are more connected than we ever thought. An unhappy gut can send inflammatory signals throughout your body, including to your knees, hips, and hands. That inflammation can show up as swelling, stiffness, or pain, sometimes within hours of consuming these products. What's more, artificial sweeteners can actually increase cravings for more sweets. That's right, even though they don't contain sugar, your brain still gets that signal for sweet, and it can leave you hungrier later, especially for more processed foods. It's a bit of a sneaky trap, one that feels like a healthy choice but often backfires. Now, here's the good news, you don't have to give up sweetness entirely. Nature gives us some wonderful alternatives that not only taste good but also come with health benefits. If you're craving a little sweetness in your tea or baking, try raw honey in small amounts or natural sweeteners like stevia or monk fruit. And better yet, reach for whole fruits like berries, apples, or dates. These options satisfy your sweet tooth and provide fiber, antioxidants, and nutrients that support healthy joints. So, let's take a breath and look at the big picture. If you've been struggling with stiff knees in the morning, aching fingers when you open jars, or pain after a short walk, your food might be quietly working against you. But here's the beautiful part. Just as food can make joint pain worse, the right foods can help heal, restore, and even reverse some of that damage over time. You don't need to make dramatic changes overnight. Think of it like a garden. It doesn't bloom all at once. You just start planting seeds. A better breakfast here, a smarter dinner choice there. Swapping out a bottle of soda for herbal tea. Adding a few anti-inflammatory spices to your soup. These are small shifts, but they build real momentum. And you're not alone in this. There are thousands, even millions of others your age who are learning to take back control of their health. Joint pain may be common after 65, but it doesn't have to be your future. You can move with more ease. You can wake up without that slow, stiff shuffle. You can go for a walk, lift your grandchild, kneel in the garden without wincing. Let me give you something powerful to remember. Every time you eat, you're either feeding inflammation or fighting it. You have that power 3 times a day, every single day. And I know change isn't always easy. Our routines are comforting. Our favorite foods feel like old friends. But sometimes, the things we're used to are the very things holding us back. The beautiful part? Once you start feeling better, once the pain softens, the swelling eases, and the stiffness fades, you won't miss those foods nearly as much. You'll be too busy enjoying your freedom again. So here's a little challenge. Over the next week, try removing just 1 or 2 of these pain-triggering foods. Pick the one you eat most often, maybe white bread or processed meats, and swap it for something better. Keep a little journal of how your joints feel each day. You might be surprised how quickly your body responds when you give it the right fuel. And remember, this isn't about restriction. It's about support. You're not punishing yourself by cutting back on sugar or artificial sweeteners. You're nourishing yourself by choosing whole foods, clean proteins, healthy fats, and anti-inflammatory herbs that love your joints as much as you do. Now, if you made it this far into the video, I want to thank you. Truly. You're here because you care about your health, your body, your independence. That already puts you ahead of the curve. And I want you to know, it's never too late to make changes that matter. Whether you're 65, 75, or even 85, your body can still adapt, heal, and thrive. So, let's quickly recap the foods we talked about today. We covered refined grains, sugar, processed oils, dairy, processed meats, nightshade vegetables for some people, and finally, artificial sweeteners. These might not seem obvious at first glance, but each one can add fuel to the fire of joint pain. And now, you also know what to eat instead: foods that soothe inflammation, nourish your joints, and support your overall well-being. If you found this video helpful, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you noticed any foods that make your joint pain worse or better? What changes have worked for you? Let's support each other. Your story might inspire someone else watching right now. And if you haven't already, go ahead and click that like button and make sure to subscribe to the channel. We've got so many more videos coming, all designed to help you live stronger, move better, and feel amazing after 60. Remember, you deserve a life without pain. You deserve to move freely, wake up energized, and enjoy each day with the strength and confidence you've earned. And with a few simple changes, that life is within reach. Here's to living your best life at any age. You've got this.